Hi, I'm Caroline. Today I wanted to share with you some movement stretches that can support lower back pain. So this is something I've been working with over the last week. Unfortunately, I was in a car accident and I've got whiplash in my lower back, and it's not something that I realised affected the lower back. I thought it was the upper body and the neck, but it does also affect the lower back. So with that has come some lower back pain, and I've been able to explore what is helping and supporting my own pain management. Of course, if this is you and you have some lower back pain, it's really important to talk to your healthcare professional. But we also know with lower back pain that actually movement can be really, really helpful. So sitting isn't advisable, or sitting for too long, and making sure that we're taking movement breaks, or movement snacks, I like to call them, is really, really supportive. So I'm going to start by lying down semi-supine, making sure that you have some support for your head if you are taking this session with me. And we're going to begin to find our feet about hip distance apart. You might find that you want to just explore where the feet are. So if your lower back pain is quite severe, sometimes taking the heels further away can allow the lower back to rest a bit more fully, and the deeper abdominal muscles to rest as well. So take a moment to explore where you are coming to. Stop shoulders. And if your pain has been quite severe, we know that sometimes we can clench our jaw, but actually if we're not breathing well as well, the pain can be more severe. So pain management really helps by breathing well. So we'll take a moment to set up our breath, and you might like to release through your jaw to begin with. So this could take the form of sticking your tongue out and giving your tongue a good stretch, but also rolling your tongue around the inside of your mouth, stretching through the cheeks. Up and under the upper and lower lip. Releasing your jaw. Eventually sealing your lips and breathing in and out through your nose. So this is going to begin to softly slow the breath down. But of course, as we come through this session, please take it at your own pace, pause, stop if you need to, as much as you can, listening to your body, being guided by what your body is asking for. You may like to take your hands to your ribcage, the front of the ribcage. If it feels comfortable and possible, the thumbs could come to the back, fingers at the front. And as you breathe in, feeling your ribcage expand. As you breathe out, feeling your ribcage contract back. And you'll be able to see, hopefully, from the movement of my hands as I breathe in, my ribcage expands, and as I breathe out, my ribcage contracts. And this tells me that my diaphragm, my main breathing muscle, is working well. Taking a few rounds here. And resting your hands, your arms when you feel ready. And we'll slowly begin to take some movement. So if you do need to pause at any point, coming back to that breathing where your ribcage expands and contracts, we want to try and keep that up as we come through the movement and through the stretches, particularly if the back is pretty sore today. But if you take a moment where you pause or you rest, coming back to your breath, really, really helpful to ease pain. So I'm going to draw the right knee in for a hug here, coming to wherever you feel possible. You might like to bring some movement to your right foot. So I'm going to point and flex my foot. A little bit of clicking there, really welcome. Rotating my ankle in one direction and then a couple of times in the opposite direction. Might like to spread your toes. And see how this feels. If this feels okay, there's not too much discomfort, feel that your breath is still working well, you're breathing with ease. Maybe you draw your right knee in a little more towards your chest. So you could do that movement there. Right knee's coming a little further towards the right armpit, if that feels possible. Though not always possible, depending on tight hips and the lower back pain.
Take your time. Perhaps you try it and then gently release. And then we'll place the right foot back down. Pause for a moment. And then when you're ready, moving to your left-hand side. So left knee coming in, softly, gently here. And then maybe encouraging a little bit of movement to the left foot. Everything's connected in the body. So we stretch through the foot. It's going to reach up into the hips. And obviously hips connected to lower back. And then if you feel like it's possible, what you could do is gently draw your left knee in a little closer towards your chest. So it's likely to feel very different on each side. So mindful, if one side feels a little tighter, perhaps you ease off. Perhaps it just feels too strong today. And you just allow the knee to be a bit softer, further away from the chest. But most importantly, breathing. Still breathing in and out through your nose. Soft inhalations and exhalations. And then when you're ready, allowing the left foot to come back down and pausing for a moment again. So the next movement we're going to take is knees into the chest, a knee hug. So I'm bringing both knees in for a hug this time. And it might be that just keeping them nice and still is enough. It might be that you want to gently draw them in towards the chest a little further and then let go. It creates a little bit of a rocking motion, almost as if you're kind of massaging the lower back a little. So this could be possible, this could be helpful. And one final option is to keep the knees together, but take a few circling movements. So the knees begin to work in circles, changing directions if you're taking this. And as I mentioned as we began, being guided by your body. So if something doesn't feel right, your body will tell you, rather than pushing through or trying to strive, either taking a step back or coming to rest. Eventually allowing your feet to come back down towards the floor and pausing here. So if you'd like to continue, we're going to extend our left and our right leg away. So leg is going to move away. I'm going to cross my right leg over my left. So I'm crossing my leg here. I'm going to give myself a hug. So my right hand is coming across my body towards the left armpit. My left hand's coming over to the right shoulder here. So got a little bit of a hug going on here. Spiraling through the body, really helpful to work with connective tissue in the body. And then we could turn our head towards the left-hand side. So as far as you feel comfortable taking your head, making sure it's fully supported. If you find that your jaw has become a little tight again, you might like to roll your tongue around the inside of your mouth. And then when you feel ready, gently taking your head towards the right. And I'm aiming for about 4 to 6 breaths here. But you might want to stay here longer. You may only want to do 1 or 2 breaths here. Gently, slowly releasing, bringing your head back to center, hands releasing, uncrossing the legs, and resting here. And if the lower back isn't happy, if your lower back's not happy with the legs extended, you could have a pillow or a cushion under your knees. So it allows the lower back to rest a bit deeper. So we're going to take that on the other side. So left leg's going to cross over the right. We're there. This time the left hand is going under the right armpit, right hand to the right shoulder. And we'll start by looking towards the right hand side. Once again, if you find that just with concentrating, or sometimes our jaw just begins to get a little tighter again, maybe you take the jaw release, stretching your tongue, rolling your tongue around the inside of your mouth. And then when you feel ready, turning your head slowly back to center and over towards your left hand side. So just with the cross of the leg and the spiraling through the head, the neck, the arms crossing over. Just encouraging a little bit more of a release. Soft twist through the spine, or the cervical spine, the neck area, a little bit of a release through the hips. Easing back to center, unraveling the legs, the arms, and pausing here for a minute. We're going to take our time to roll onto our front of our body. So as long as you feel comfortable lying on your front, you might like to bend your knees, feet are coming flat to the floor. Gently rolling to one side, taking it really slowly and softly, and then eventually spiraling all the way around. So a couple of options here, depending on how your lower back feels. So you could take a shape called crocodile, and this is where the hands stack or your forearms stack. And then the point between your eyebrows rests on your stacked hands or stacked forearms. So there's a possibility there if you'd like to take it. If it feels possible to come a little deeper, you could come into something that's called Sphinx. So elbows are underneath shoulders and forearms are parallel. My forearms are parallel here. It might be that you'd like to come to Sphinx, but that feels a bit too strong, but crocodile feels a bit too soft. So the option then is to take the elbows a little further forwards. That's going to ease the back bend. It's going to make the arch in the back a bit softer. So you might take a moment here just to explore what's going to feel best for you. If you can, don't be pushing into your hands, almost pushing into the fingertips. You've got starfish hands, just taking a little bit of a stretch through the arms, feeling into the lower back. If there's any nipping, if it feels too much, dropping down towards crocodile. You could also give a little squeeze of the inner thigh. So imagining you have something between your thighs that you're squeezing hold of between your legs, and that's likely to support a little the lower back. And then if you'd like to, we can take a little twist here. So we're going to take this a couple of times in different variations. I'm going to look towards my right hand side. I might even look towards my right hip. I'm going to slowly come back to center. I'm going to look towards my left hand side. And then down towards my left hip. And slowly back to center, pausing here. You may want to pause and rest. If you're happy to take another twist, another option could be to gently lift your right elbow. I'm keeping a soft bend in my right elbow here, so my right arm hasn't straightened. And then looking down the right side to my right foot. Only taking the head, the gaze as far as feels comfortable for you. Dropping the right elbow as my head comes back to center. Left arm lifts, keeping a nice soft bend in the left elbow. Looking towards the left. And then you may want to look towards your left foot. Slowly come back to center when you're ready. Gently dropping down. And we're going to take some little movements through the back of the body here. So I'm coming back into crocodile, or dropping down into crocodile. I'm going to keep my hands stacked rather than my forearms stacked because I'm going to make it a bit softer for myself today. I'm going to turn my head just so my camera can pick up and my mic can pick up my voice. But as much as you can, trying to have that point between the eyebrows resting on your hands or your forearms so that your head and your neck are in line with the rest of your spine. And then we're going to begin to bend the right knee. The front of the right thigh is very much resting on the floor, and take some gentle circles. So it's not an ankle movement, it's a hip movement. So you might like to imagine your right big toe is beginning to draw some circles. Change direction. These circles could begin to be really small and stay small, but perhaps they get a little larger with time. So this is a possibility. Eventually allowing your right leg to rest down and then changing sides. So when you're ready, left knee bends, left foot's in the air, taking some circular movements, making sure it's coming from the hip. So a way to imagine that or to support that is to imagine your big toe is drawing the circles. So the ankle's not rotating, it's just beginning to draw the circles with the big toe, perhaps getting a little bit bigger, a bit wider. And then when you're ready, changing direction. Eventually the left leg's going to rest. And we're going to push back into a child's pose. And I know this isn't always accessible for everybody. So I'm going to guide child's pose. I'm going to take an extended one, big toes together, knees wide apart, and I'm walking my hands forwards. It might be that I have some support underneath my head. The other option would be to come to knees hugging into the chest. So I call this the upside down child's pose. So you may prefer to come to this. So see what feels best for you, what feels accessible for your body today. For those in child, it might be that you can have your hands under your head, trying to sit your glutes, your sitting bones down towards your heels. So try and create some space and length in the lower back. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into a tabletop shape. So hands are going to come under shoulders, knees roughly under hips. You might like some extra padding, so sometimes I like to have a blanket under my knees. Another option, if your wrists don't feel very happy, is to take a fist shape. So my thumbs are pointing forwards and I've made a kind of fist shape with my hand there. And that takes a little bit of weight out the shoulder, out the wrists even. So just making sure that you feel safe where you are. If you've got your hands spread, kind of starfish hands, if possible, trying to create the weight even across the hands to keep the wrists nice and safe. And for those of you that are very flexible, naturally hypermobile, you can do a little turn inwards. The hands turn inwards rather than the middle fingers pointing forwards. So this is something called cat-cow. You may be familiar with it. The spine moves up towards the sky and then drops down, belly dropping down into cow. Small, gentle movements to begin with. So we're just very slowly easing into the back of the body. And you'll know, depending on how the lower back feels at this point, how deep you want to go. You could begin to move the head with the back of the body. So it's almost the whole spine moving, neck's integrated as well. Are you still breathing? So as much as you can, breathing well, soft, slowly in and out through your nostrils. And then when you're ready, allowing the wrists a little rest. So it might be you sit back in child's pose, or perhaps you walk your hands forwards, drop the elbows, and you can take your hips gently from side to side. So kind of almost like a half dog shape. Tucking your chin as much as you can so that the back of your neck feels relaxed. In this shape, you can begin to take some circles. And then if you feel able to, coming back to our tabletop shape. Hands roughly under shoulders, knees roughly under hips. And then beginning to move your spine like a fish would through water. So the right ear is coming towards my right shoulder, my left ear is then coming to my left shoulder. So I'm imagining the spine is swimming like a fish through water. It's almost like it's an S shape through the spine we're beginning to create. I'm taking a few rounds here. I'm eventually coming back to center. And we're going to drop down to rest, but we'll come onto our back again. So coming back to the position we began in, making sure you've got any support that feels comfortable, that feels helpful for your head. Knees bent, feet flat on the floor, our semi-supine shape again. And an invitation here either to draw both knees in for a hug or take a knee in one at a time. So you may like to draw your right knee in first and then your left. And I've got one more final movement that's been helping my lower back. So with all these movements, I've been trying to create space around the lower back. So almost a space between each vertebrae, space around the lower back muscles, the spine, around the hips. So as everything compresses and tightens, we want to kind of stretch it out. And it's not always easy. So I'm going to begin to take my right knee over my left. So I'm crossing my legs. I'm just going to cross my legs here. It's crossing maneuver again. And then I'm going to try and draw my knees in. So I'm drawing my knees in, and this is where I can take hold of my knees for a little hug and gently rock. If it feels possible, one other option is to begin to try and hold the legs or even the ankles, drawing the heels towards your hips a bit, drawing them in, but also at the same time pulling them apart. So drawing in and pulling apart, drawing in, and then I'm just trying to pull them apart a little. So it depends on how much strength you feel you have in the upper body. Most importantly here as well, breathing. So I can feel my jaws tighten up a little bit, so I'm going to do a jaw release. And then as I breathe in, I'm trying to fill my lungs a little bit like two balloons. So I'm trying to breathe in through my nose and really feel my lungs ballooning. If you'd like to, with this movement, with the right leg on top of the left, you could take your gaze towards your left-hand side. Eventually, slowly, gently, releasing your legs back down and crossing the legs, pausing for a moment here. And we'll take that same movement on the other side. So left knee crosses over the right. If it feels possible, we're going to draw the knees in. Something you could do is you could have a stack of books or something like a bolster and put your foot on there. And that could become a bit more restful because it's just being held in that shape. So we're either taking hold of a knee if that feels reachable, or perhaps you could find your legs, your ankles. And I'm beginning to draw my legs in, but then I'm also trying to pull them apart out the way. Trying as much as I can to keep my shoulders soft and relaxed. And then I'm going to begin to take my gaze towards my right hand side. So just an option to bring a little twist through the spine. When you're ready, coming back to center, easing out and gently dropping the feet back down. Perhaps your body's asking for a knee hug, so really welcome to take a little knee hug. As you do, and if you do, is it noticeably different to that first knee hug we took? Does anything feel a bit softer or easier? And your body will be telling you, oh wow, that's either harder or softer. And it might be that particularly with lower back pain, that's been quite a lot of movement for you if you took all of the movements and you come to a resting shape for a little while. And if you do want to extend your legs, a little bit of support under the knees, some cushion pillows under the knees can be really helpful to allow this lower back and deeper abdominal muscles to rest a bit more easily. So if you're coming into full relaxation there, please do take some support if you can. As we come up and out, just as we did before, as we turned over, rolling to one side, and it doesn't matter which side we roll to, that kind of pause. And with the knees bent, we've got a little bit of support there. I'm going to bring my hands to my floor. So I've actually rolled to my left-hand side. My right hand is coming to the floor. So I'm able to kind of spiral around and support myself to come to upright without using the lower back or the abdominal muscles. And then coming up eventually as well. So I hope that's been helpful. Please let me know in the comments below. But as I say, that's some of the movement I've been doing to support my lower back pain. And it's been really, really helpful. And I've been doing it 2 or 3 times a day to ease out, avoid standing for too long, avoid sitting for too long, always bringing movement. When I've been standing, I've been using a bit of hip swaying from left to right. I've been taking a figure of 8 with my hips as well. So keep moving, keep creating space in the lower back and the lumbar spine. And I hope your lower back pain eases eventually.